All right, having said that, as we always do, we will start with a moment of silent prayer and meditation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. Back to the house. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. All right. Under recognized guests on the agenda, you'll notice the first thing we were going to do is show a video presentation of the Buckhannon Sanitary Sewer Facility. I do have that on flash drive. Unfortunately, I did not have the computer to make that work. It's an hour. So I'm going to save all of us an hour for this meeting, but I assure you at some point it will be shown at a council meeting or at a town hall meeting, because sanitary plan, of course, we're looking at the sanitary rate increase. So we want to make sure everyone understands, all the citizens understand what it is we have out there, the benefits of it, and the great way that we take care of it, and how your money, or in this case, the rate increase would affect you. We're not going to do that tonight, so I'm going to move on to the next thing on our recognized guest, and that's Mr. Rob Hinton with the Upshur County Development Authority. And he wants to talk about what we discussed last week, and I think most council, that was the first time, and citizens at the last council, to talk about the power grant. So, Mr. Hinton, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Council. Wow, there's an echo up here. First, I'd like to take the opportunity. There was an article or an editorial in the paper on Wednesday morning, and I'd like to take the time to. A lot of questions were brought up in that editorial, and there are definitely questions that we need to consider, we need to look at, and I'd like to take the time right now. Really quickly and go over some of that information and misinformation and kind of get the story straight and correct a lot of those uncertainties. You know, the Upshur County Development Authority, we don't look at it as we're asking for property. We see it as a part of an investment partnership for a $4 million project in downtown Buckhannon. This project will immediately net the city roughly $80,000 in construction B&O and an additional $15,000 in permit fees alone. The city will also recognize and realize ongoing returns from B&O taxes received from businesses within the building. Most would agree that investing in jobs is tax dollars well spent. Matching funds for the project will be received from the West Virginia Economic Development Authority, which is the same entity and agency where the Development Authority received funding for the industrial park. We have been told that we will be able to get funding from them in the amount of $1 million. And their words to me have been, we will not be the agency that stands in the way of an investment of this size coming to West Virginia. This is a $3 million grant that we're asking for from the federal government. It's part of a $69 million program. This is a huge opportunity, not only for Buckhannon, but for West Virginia. A parking study. I mentioned a parking study in the editorial. A parking study has been done and recommendations were made by the author of that parking study. There was some mention of existing property and why we're not using existing property. The Development Authority does own other pieces of property. We do have the deed for the Latham House. Unfortunately, the Latham House is in the floodplain. And these federal funds cannot be used on any floodplain property. Chase is a similar situation. Even if Chase Bank were willing to sell their drive-through, it's still within the floodplain, and it would be eliminated as an option for this grant project. The Armory. The Armory is under lease purchase agreement. We signed a 12-month lease purchase agreement with M2 Bravo, and they've been a huge success. They've actually expanded into a second location. I know it's a huge asset for especially young people in the area. It adds something for them to do. It's exciting, and it's new, and it's different. You wouldn't expect to have that in Buckhannon. We have it here. We've agreed mutually between Development Authority and M2 Bravo to enter into a 4-year lease purchase agreement. M2 Bravo has started the purchasing process of going through financing, which is going to be a long, probably an 8 to 12 month process. They're going to try to use an SBA-backed loan, and that's a very lengthy and intensive process. So we ended up saying, let's just go with a 4-year lease option with a purchase. Makes it easier for us because we're looking at this project, looking at going after financing, and it gives us a better planning model, and it gives them an opportunity to enter into a lease, and if they don't meet if they don't get financing in the next 12 months, we don't have to go through the whole thing about re-signing up a lease. They're successful, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know how anybody would argue with that. We would never remove or tell a business to leave one of our properties to do another project. That just is counterproductive. One of the things that I think is very critical to understand is the mass amount of investment that was made with the West Virginia Army Reserve National Guard project on Brushy Fork. The city of Buckhannon had an enormous amount of investment in that project, as well as the Upshur County Development Authority. The Upshur County Development Authority is responsible for $1.45 million in a loan, and we've got it paid down to about $600,000 right now. But we purchased property so the Army National Guard could have property to build their facility on. That is who transferred the Armory to us. We transferred 21 acres of property to the Army National Guard, and when the building was complete, the Army Readiness Center and the Convention Center, Conference Center, I'm sorry, when that was complete, the National Guard transferred the Armory to us. We did gift 14 acres to the county commission out of that deal. Initially there was 42 plus 14, 54, 56 acres available that we purchased, and 14 acres we did gift free of charge to the county commission. That was the only gifting opportunity and transaction that happened with that deal. The similar transaction that we're talking about tonight, we ended up using two public bodies, the Army National Guard and the Upshur County Development Authority. And based on West Virginia Code, those two entities can transfer property amongst each other as long as those deeds are approved by the Board of Public Works, which includes the governor of the state of West Virginia. We will transfer an additional 21 acres to the National Guard to finish the second and third phase. And we had some discussions on the phone this morning with the powers that be on hopefully seeing that happen. Lastly is the industrial park. The industrial park is that. It's an industrial park. It's not an office park. It's not a corporate park. It is specifically dedicated for industrial type activity and industrial type businesses. I shouldn't do this because my board doesn't even know. But there's a lot of things that the Development Authority puts irons in the fire, and we try to get things to work. We try to get things to happen, and we try to bring businesses here. And I was talking to a business development guy from Maryland this morning, and he said 1 out of 10, 1 out of 15. I mean, that's your average. You work 10 deals, 15 deals, maybe you get 1. But right now we have a company we're talking to. They're interested in 4 acres. Will it happen? I don't know. Probably not. That's why I don't tell a lot of things, because if we tell 15 deals that never happen, it seems like we're not doing anything. But I mean, that's the life of our job. And we have another company that's interested in doing a warehouse distribution, which would need about an acre and a half. So there's about 5.5 acres that we've got in the hopper. Maybe it comes to fruition, maybe it doesn't. But we don't want to put it doesn't make sense to put an office building in the industrial park. We would remove people from downtown. We need people downtown. We need people downtown to walk the streets, to eat at the restaurants, to shop in the stores. That's where Main Street gets its livelihood from. So, I mean, we would not do this project if an industrial park was the only option. I'm not familiar, and I wasn't in this job, and didn't pay attention, I guess, to politics and such when it happened. The result of litigation with the old CBB and the lot and all that. And I know there was mention in that editorial about this is the same thing, and it's very, very different. The CBB is and I looked this up on the Secretary of State's office, even the old one. It was a registered nonprofit 501 corporation. And that is a private corporation. You know, whether you're private, nonprofit, or private for-profit, you're still considered private. And under that stipulation, you cannot transfer property to private entities being from public. So it's not similar in any way, shape, or form. We're two public bodies looking to lock arms and hope to achieve greatness. So to end up answering the question by the Record Delta editor, is this transfer legal and within the confines of the law? This transfer has been reviewed by several attorneys, and their opinion has come back conclusively all the same. Yes, this is legal, this was within the confines of the law, and there is precedence that two public bodies can transfer property for the betterment of their community, or if one public body presents a need over the others. And I think that we present that need tonight. Come on. All right. All right, death by PowerPoint, right? It's okay, you guys can laugh. Let's have fun. Okay, gives you an idea. This was a rendering we had done, and that was one of the better ones that they did from a computer generation standpoint, and it just gives you an idea of what could be there. And this is real, guys. This is real. This can happen. We were the third one in the hopper, third application in the first come, first served federal grant opportunity. And we're already being reviewed while others are trying to figure out what kind of project they're going to do. This program wants to make an announcement by June, and we're on a timeline that we could be part of that announcement. To give you an idea of where we're going, okay, federal funding opportunity announced March 17, 2016. Around that same time, we started the pre-application submission, and it was uploaded by April 14, 2016. We worked very hard. Region 7 and I, in our office, worked very hard to get that in. At the same time, we put out requests for proposals for architects and engineers. In the meantime, since then, to date, we interviewed firms and selected an architect and engineer. Hopefully we can see that. This is the bare bones condensed version of the timeline. So we've got the pre-application submission uploaded. If we move on to the right, we can say review of application. If we keep going to the right, rejection of project, project's dead. We're done. We got to go back to the drawing board and think of something else that we can utilize to create jobs. We're pretty confident that we're going to get an invitation to apply fully. But in between that time, in between the time that we get an invitation to apply for full application, we presented to the City Council a request for a resolution for the property transfer, and hopefully we can have that in place by May 9th is when we're supposed to hear back. That's the deadline that the Power Program has to give us an answer of whether or not they're going to invite us to be an applicant or they're going to deny our project completely. If an invitation is sent out and given to us, the next step is going to be prepare and submit a full application. We'll have 30 days to get a full application in, and then that timeline would put us somewhere around the middle of June, and hopefully a response on award at the end of June or sometime in July. The timing of this has been very, very quick, and it's going to continue to be very, very quick. And opportunities come and go very, very quick. And we are capitalized and in a position to capitalize on this project, on this opportunity. The Power Program quick facts. I mentioned it once. Funds can't be used in floodplain. They can't be used to purchase property. We can't use this money to acquire property. One of the reasons why we want to partner with the city. U.S. Economic Development Administration mandates use of the building for 20 years. I checked with USDA, Pam, and it was USDA that was 30 years. So the 20 years is correct. And what that means is that we're proposing to use this building as an incubator, an innovation center, and for office on the second and third floor, and retail, commerce, and walk-up business on the first floor, street level. We cannot do anything else. The U.S. Economic Development Administration has to approve every single lease that we want to enter into, and making sure that we're in compliance at all times for 20 years. If the only way to get out of this 20-year deal is if we sell the building. And if we sell the building, let's say we sell it for, we build it for 4 and we sell it for, I don't know, 8. It's unrealistic, but I'm going to use easy math here. We have to give the USDA 75% of the proceeds of the sale of the building. So they've always have, it's like a business, they have a 75% equity in this building. And they will own 75% of this building for as long as 20 years, and then after that, obviously, they won't have anything to do with it. But that gives you an idea to the fact that we're not going to sell it because it wouldn't make sense. There's no point in going after this grant if our goal is to sell the building. This building is for a purpose. It's to create innovation. It's to create entrepreneurship. It's to create jobs. First come, first served grant. That means the first to the pot gets the money. We're there. Requires support from local government. That is one of the big keys. And I had a conversation with the state representative for U.S. Economic Development Administration, and she said one of the things that she knows about Buckhannon, because she's from West Virginia, one of the things she knows about Buckhannon is how much and how collaborative this community is between county and city and working together, and that is why we have a lot of successes here. So we have a reputation. Project quick facts, $4 million project. We're going to take out a $1 million loan. Hopefully we'll get $3 million in grant. Roughly a 27,000 square foot building, 3 stories. Over the next 9 years, we're projected to create 100 jobs. So, it's not going to happen in a year. It's going to take time. Expanded entrepreneur resources. Want to create more businesses, and we want to keep on the snowball effect of what's happening with our entrepreneur program, both at our office with our small business coach, and as well as with Wesleyan. Flex office space, increased knowledge-based job opportunities, matching job opportunities with skill sets of individuals coming out of college. So benefits to the city. Development of vacant property. Increased employment within the city. Estimated $80,000 in construction B&O. Estimated $14,000 in construction permit fees. Additional future B&O taxes from businesses. Statewide recognition of continued collaborative efforts. Return on investment on UCDA investment. And what I mean by that is you invest annually in the Upshur County Development Authority. And I think that our office looks at this project as a return on that investment. We're creating opportunities, and we're creating additional tax base, and I think that's a huge accomplishment. Increased revenue from Main Street service businesses, and no risk. We're taking all the risk from a loan standpoint, from a debt standpoint, and we're not asking the city to do that. And I think that's a great deal. Peter Drucker was one of the most, and I know probably some of my board members are kind of going, oh, here we go. I love quotes and that, but Peter Drucker was the father of management. He was way ahead of his time. This was written probably sometime in the 70s or early 80s. And he said the most valuable asset of a 21st century economy will be its knowledge workers and their productivity. And there's nothing but truth behind that. Knowledge-based businesses are our future. There are a lot of things that are going to add to our future. There's not one silver bullet. But we must invest in a knowledge-based economy. We must grow that knowledge-based economy. We must grow the knowledge-based job sources that we have here. And I like this one. A little bit of baseball. Progress means taking risk. This is a risk. If you're nervous, you're normal. If you're not, you got a little crazy in you. But you got to be scared. You got to take risks because you can't steal home and keep your foot on third base. If you don't take your foot off third base, you'll never get thrown out. But if you never take your foot off third base, you may never make it to home and may never score. We've got to embrace risk, but we've got to do it responsibly. We've got to do it by looking at every single angle. And I will tell you this. If you think I don't get worked over at our 7 a.m. board meetings with projects like this, I do. Our board members put it through the ringer. And they test everything and they question everything. And we've looked at every aspect of this project. And we're still to the point where we believe in it. And we believe in this project. And I'll finish with this. We need the city's support. I know you're scared, and it's natural to be scared. I'm asking you to believe in me, for you to believe in the Development Authority and the direction in which I have it moving. I'm asking for you to believe and trust that every decision that I make is for the betterment of this community and its future. My motivation is simple. It's my kids. I want them to be able to stay in West Virginia. I want them to have opportunities here at home. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker. I push the limits, I know. But if we don't test the boundaries, if we don't challenge the status quo, if we don't expect greatness, then how will we ever achieve success? Albert Einstein said that if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that is the definition of insanity. I can't promise you that we will get this grant. I can't guarantee you that this project will work. Nobody can. What I can promise you is that I will always put the future of this city, county, and this state before anything we do. If at any time this project does not make sense, we pull the plug and move on. And I said that to my board Wednesday morning. And that's the truth. At any time the risk is more outweighed than the reward, and it doesn't make sense, and we don't have these commitments, and we can't fill the occupancy to break even, we pull the plug. We move on. We don't put ourselves into a position of failure. Right now, I believe in this project. Our board believes in this project. The citizens believe in this project. And I know you believe in this project. So I'm asking to lock arms tonight and achieve greatness together. Vote your heart. Vote Buckhannon's future on the resolution tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. I certainly appreciate you addressing the editorial pieces because I know that added some confusion to the discussions that I know I've had and our council members have had. You very eloquent and you stated your point very well. And we all, I believe, understand the importance of the Development Authority. I know that during the last 2 months of all the writings and stuff I've seen from politicians, how much everyone's on board with the Development Authority and the work that you and your board do as well. Council, before you leave, though, I'm going to ask Council if they've got any questions for Mr. Hinton on the presentation you just gave. Citizens, I will also come to you. I know we have a list of folks who do want to speak on that, but I would like to get the Council to ask any questions first, and then I'll open it up to who signed up to speak on this particular subject. Council, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Hinton? Hearing none?
You go first, Dave?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Whoever's going to go.
You said you talked to lawyers about that, the difference between the CVB law and what happened 6 years ago. Well, I've talked to lawyers too, and they dispute what you're saying. So where do we go from here?
I'm not sure what you're asking. And I
Well,
didn't talk to, let me make sure I make this clear. I didn't talk to any lawyers about the CVB lot or or that
we're
litigation.
talking about transfer.
Right, transfer of property. Our legal representation, most likely for the past 8 months, a lot of our transaction has been dealt with by Spillman, Thomas and Battle, which is one of the oldest law firms and a pretty reputable one. And under the guidance of their office, which is very familiar with West Virginia Code and government relations, we presented our potential project to them prior to even going into the application process. And we asked them, we said, you know, we know what West Virginia Code 153 is. We transfer property between public bodies, between West Virginia National Guard and Development Authority. Can we work with the city, and can the city transfer property to the Development Authority in that same kind of context? And their answer was yes, based on the criteria of fulfilling that need. So I guess I guess I have that opinion and documented. And I don't want to put Scott on the, but Scott has the same opinion.
Well, there's a statute, excuse me, more specific related to county development authorities. It's 71211 of the West Virginia Code. It says the county commission of the county or municipal corporations therein are hereby authorized and empowered to transfer and convey to said authority property of any kind acquired by said county commission or municipal corporation for or adaptable to use in industrial, economic, and recreational development. Such transfers or conveyances to be without consideration or for such price and upon such terms and conditions as the said county commission or municipal corporation deems proper. That's much more precise as it relates to development authorities and no disrespect to anybody there.
I'm not a lawyer.
But I mean, this is right on target about the wisdom of it can be debated, but the authority, I think, is beyond debate. This spells it out crystal clear that a city or a county can transfer property to a development authority that they've created. And again, if anybody would like to look at the West Virginia codes online, it's 712-11.
Which is that the code that we're developed under?
Correct.
Yeah.
Created under, that's correct.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Possibly. Also, we discussed, you talked about doing an underground garage.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you find out if that's possible? Isn't there tanks down underneath the ground that can't be moved?
There are no underground storage tanks on that property. There are monitoring wells on that property, but I believe in 2006 or 7 underground storage tanks were removed.
All right. But can that still be built on even though they have to check that property?
We have had several communications with DEP as well as Brownfields at WVU. Their recommendation is that if we do not dig down, we're most likely looking at a vapor barrier between the building and the ground. And if we do dig down, we're going to have to get the recommendations after a phase 1 study is done. So at this point, an underground parking lot is not a guarantee, and it's not a guarantee that we can or cannot do it. We just don't have enough information. But we know we can build on top of that ground with just a vapor barrier.
Okay. Another thing, you mentioned about you're going to borrow $1 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Plus you're going for $4 million, right?
Pardon?
You're going for $4 million in grants?
No,
plus borrow-
$3 million in grants.
Okay, plus you're going to borrow $1 million.
Borrow $1 million, yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that all going toward that building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Why do you feel that it's got to be a $4 million building?
It's 27,000 square feet is pushing it on $4 million budget. I mean, that's really getting down to nitty gritty on building construction costs. There's obviously you're in that $4 million, there's an architect and engineering fee. There's also a contingency in that. But our grant proposal has 100% project funding going towards project.
Okay, another thing, I am definitely not against this. I just want to do what's right for the people here in town. And
Yes, ma'am.
you see what I mean, in the county. I'm not sure, I feel the people, the businesses that's downtown should have a voice on this. That's why we need to have a town hall meeting or something like that, because it will affect everybody downtown. You say I've heard from 100 to 140 jobs, there's a big difference in that. And
It's always been 100.
Where are these people going to go, where are they going to park?
Well, and I'll say this, you can have two problems. We've lost 285 coal jobs over the last 5-6 years. That's $6.8 million in wages annually. Numbers aren't even out yet from the oil and gas industry. But I know for a fact that one company has lost 300 jobs. Those are good paying jobs. So let's say we're at 500 jobs. We have a hole. We have a hole in employment, we have a hole in wages, and that's going to affect our economy. At some point in time, that's going to affect our economy. And if we don't do something to try and replace that, we're going to continue to constrict and contract. And if I had to choose a problem to have, a contraction, and a joblessness problem, and a parking problem, I choose parking problems all day long, because there's a right answer for parking problems, and that's get more parking. And it's easy to plan more parking. We have properties within the city that are within floodplains that make sites for perfect parking lots. But what is very, very, very difficult to do, and there is not one person, maybe a self-proclaimed guru, if you will, but nobody knows the correct answer to creating jobs, because you have a lot of diverse dynamics involved in creating jobs, whether location, population, what have you. I think that worrying about parking is worrying about a problem that is a good problem to have. South of Canal River, south of Charleston, you've got a desolate situation. I mean, it has been portrayed, it has been labeled as worse than a depression. So I mean, imagine that. Imagine being in a town that things like Brakes is going out of business. Imagine CJ is going out of business. Imagine Walmart. Imagine Walmart leaving Buckhannon. That's reality. That's the reality that's happening within this state right now because of the economic downturn in the energy industry and coal. We have an opportunity to be the exact opposite. We have an opportunity for growth. We have an opportunity for construction right now. And those are impactful jobs right now. We have an opportunity to capitalize and continue on the growth that we have. I mean, we have some growth. We've had, I don't know how many ribbon cuttings in the past couple of months. And to think that this opportunity is cautiously being overthought based on parking, I think is we're focusing on the wrong thing.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But that's just something that
Yeah.
I've thought about. Also, I thought we were supposed to be trying to keep downtown Buckhannon a historical district.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just going to go away from that even more. But my thought is, and I've thought about it, I think Bill Kelly's Chevrolet property would be the perfect spot for that.
Right, and remember,
Because
we
there's 3 acres.
can't purchase.
There's 3 acres there.
We can't purchase property with the funds. And that property is about $1.2 million. And we'd have to just tear down the building because you can't turn a garage into an office building.
Okay, well, that's my thoughts right now.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Thomas, were you going to say something?
When you said May the 9th, Rob.
Yes, sir.
As a focal point, we're in a pre-application stage now, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
May the 9th what is the date? What's the importance of that date again?
May the 9th was a date that was told to me. We've got an email from DC, from Appalachian Regional Commission, that said our application was under review, and this happened on Monday. And their deadline to get back to us for questions and concerns is tomorrow. And my conversation yesterday with the EDA rep, as we constantly are talking throughout this process, is that their deadline to give them an answer as to whether or not they're going to accept our pre-application to move forward is the 9th.
But, I mean, let's assume that after all the questions you have this evening, the council has some concerns about the, as you described last council meeting, the whirlwind effect. And it's really, I think many people are very not familiar with some of the speed that some of these grants are moving in regard to the political scene. I mean, the whole grant's here because of the attack on the fossil fuel industry,
Yes.
the coal mines and the natural gas and so forth. So I think a lot of people in Washington, for lack of a better terminology, are throwing money at those geographical areas that have been impacted with the downturn in the coal industry and other fossil fuels. So they're really out there trying to, in some ways, have a little bit of damage control in regard to how we may be viewing them in the political scene. But given that assumption is correct, the opportunity is there for us to take advantage of them throwing money at these kind of situations. If we would decide tonight that, let's say we say the resolution, we're not comfortable with it, we think that we should have a town hall meeting next week and a special city council meeting next week after the town hall meeting to discuss this more thoroughly. And I think you've done a great job tonight addressing some of the issues and concerns. Would that absolutely negate the opportunity for this project or not?
If we're asked invited to apply on May 9th, we'll have 30 days to get our application in. If we don't have an answer tonight, there's money that has to be spent with engineering, phase 1 study specifically. It makes it very dangerous for the Development Authority to start spending money if we don't know we have the support of the city. So I would say that if it's not voted on tonight, that we're looking at probably not being able to submit a full application because of the unknowns with the commitment of the local government.
Now, today is the 5th.
Correct.
What if we had an answer for you in a definitive way by next Wednesday, the 11th, or Thursday, the 12th? Would that not be satisfactory? I'm really pushing you on this, Rob. And you need to push back.
Well, I don't know what the hesitation is. I think, no, I don't think. I know. Where we are right now, we're there because of the reputation of Buckhannon. We're there because of the reputation of the community and the collaborative efforts that we have that have produced the Army National Guard Readiness Center, that have produced the event center. That was our collaborative efforts. Those are historical milestones that people remember. And they say, you know what? This place has got it right. And they give us the benefit of the doubt, and they look at it, and they want to give back to us. They want to invest. And I think that if we're still hanging out there wondering and waiting, I don't know what the point would be.
Okay. In the board meeting yesterday, I asked about, let's assume we do the resolution. And sometimes the specificity of these grants are such that, 3 or 4 weeks from now, you get the approval and you're negotiating with the fine print, so to say. There is still the opportunity for you as the Development Authority Director to have sincere reservations about some of those restrictions. So we're not tying our hands with this resolution. We
No.
still have at any point in time to say, this is not quite what we thought, and we want to remove ourselves from this consideration.
Right.
Is that your position?
Yes, we are not bound and committed, even if we're what they call a non-binding award letter, which doesn't bind the federal government to give you dollars, doesn't commit the federal government to give you dollars. It's saying that under the terms, it's just like we've all bought homes. You get approved for a loan, but you still haven't got the loan yet, but you've been approved and you've got to go through closing. A grant still has the same thing. We've got to go through closing. So while we go through closing, we're going to be able to reevaluate at all times, at all steps, okay, is this still a good deal? Is this still a good deal for the community? Is this still a good option? Do we still have the businesses that we have right now, or more businesses that are still committed? Are they still on board? Because now we've been awarded, now we can start signing letters of binding commitments with these businesses to move in once we're occupied. And if nobody wants to jump from a business standpoint, as much as I love this project, we can't build a building without having a commitment from businesses. And I will not do that. I will walk away.
So you have a timeline to explore further what outside businesses or local businesses would have an interest in leasing this particular space.
Right. We have interest. We have two businesses willing to sign letters of interest. I'm sorry, one local business willing to sign a letter of interest. And that local business is looking for this type of office space, and if they don't find it here, they're going to leave. And that's the reality. We have one outside of this county that's looking to come here and willing to sign a letter of interest. We have two companies that are outside of the state. They're not big. They're not going to take up a lot of space, but they're willing to sign letters of interest. And I'm going on a fishing expedition next week to talk to other businesses and see what we can drum up. But right now, with the letters of interest, we're about 37% occupancy. Our break-even's about 40% occupancy. So we land one more 1,000 or 2,000 square foot business, and we are in a really good position.
Now, when you say break even,
Yes.
you mean that to pay the principal and interest on the $1 million loan, plus what the utility cost would be on an operational basis.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're looking at 40 to 50% occupancy is required.
Yeah, 40 is right at break even.
Now, the $4 million grant, does that have monies in there for the underground parking? Or is that something different?
No, it's all, it can be used for construction. And construction would be underground parking.
My strong suggestion would be, and I'm not an architect or an engineer, but I think it would be folly to put underground parking at that particular location because of the subsoil issues we have on that particular piece of property, and with subsoil issues we have in the entire place in Upshur County, quite frankly. You build a basement. I spend a lot of money fixing my basement up, and a lot of people have done that. So I would hope that, if we approve this, I think there's a caveat to me that I would not want underground parking. I think that is just not a wise thing to do. It's cost prohibitive. It just doesn't make sense to put that kind of investment for, I think you said 18 to 20 parking spaces last council meeting. I think this really, again, I don't like to move this quickly on something. It gives me, I always play the devil's advocate. I used to be called Mr. No at the college, among other things, unfortunately. But this really gives us, to me, a learning experience that, the mention was of the house on the corner, I can't remember what it is now. The house, the historical house, the Latham House. I've heard people say, it's nice to have history, but at the same time, does it make sense to put $250,000 in that facility? Would it be better to maybe tear the thing down and put a really nice parking lot there? There's some other locations that might make sense for that too. But what this means to me, for the city and the Development Authority and the County Commission, is that we need to put together, I know we have the 2020 plan and things like that, but we need a geographical, residential, commercial plan for the city limits in the downtown and close to the downtown on what are the properties that are there, what are the opportunities for it, and involve the business people within this area. I've heard from a lot of people, I've been on the phone almost all day today and all day yesterday, talking about this, saying that it'd be my position, I would like to have more time. I'd like to be able to do further analysis and feasibility studies and et cetera. The question I asked you yesterday in the board meeting is we have absolute control of this. If you feel 2 weeks or 3 weeks from today that the grant is not going to be prudent for the city or the development authority or the citizens, we just back off it. Now, am I correct on that? That's how this whole thing works.
Yeah, as much as I love this project and as much as it would pay me to give that money back and walk away, it's going to save a lot of heartaches in the future, because we know before we even break ground or sign on the dotted line that it's not going to work.
Have you talked to the Chamber of Commerce about this? What is their position?
And we're going to be hearing from them in a few
Okay,
minutes.
and I'd like to know what the position of the Chamber of Commerce is, if the college has been contacted and so forth. You know, I think this is a great opportunity. You quote Peter Drucker, I think it was in the 60s who wrote that book, as a matter of fact. But do you know who Newt Rockney is?
Newt Rockney, name sounds familiar.
Yeah, you sound almost like Newt Rockney up here a little bit. I mean, for
I've
those-
never heard Newt Rockney.
You never heard of Newt?
Well, I've never heard
The famous
of him.
Notre Dame coach?
Is there any other questions?
heard of
James?
I'm done, thanks.
Mr. Pugh, I saw your hand up. Do you still have a question?
I just want to know if you have done or are in the process of doing any core drillings to see exactly what the surface underneath the ground is like, if it's like the quicksand that most of the rest of the town's built under?
No, we haven't done any of that. And basically, because we're in the pre-feasibility stage, or pre-application stage, we have done a pre-feasibility study on this project, and it came back positive that it would be feasible. But as far as, you know, engineering from the soil standpoint, none of that's been done, and that would be taken care of in a phase one. If we're invited to apply, you know, environmental and phase one study would be conducted, so we could submit that in a phase, or into the full application. At this juncture, not having made it past the pre-application phase, it makes it a little bit reckless to get into that kind of testing, I would think.
The size of the building, would it be comparable to what the annex of the courthouse is?
Is it 3 stories or 4?
It's 3.
Yeah.
And as far as the footprint and everything, I'd be about the same, do you think?
I don't know the size of the courthouse. I mean, it's about a 9,000 square foot plate. So it's a pretty rectangle, oblong lot. I don't know, I can't do the math in my head real quick on working backwards, 9,000, what dimensions that would be. But I think the lot is about 70 by 210.
Okay.
And the building obviously would have some setbacks. So it's gonna be smaller than 70 by 210. We also discussed at our board meeting and that any final design of the building, now, I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but any final design of the building will be approved by the board unanimously. And I can be upfront. Our priority is modern inside, historical facade outside. We want to maintain continuity, and we fought hard with the Economic Development Administration. They don't typically do retail, and we fought hard on this pre-application to get them to move forward and accept our pre-application. They still haven't invited us to fully apply. But they considered the pre-application with retail on the first floor because we think it's important to maintain continuity in the Main Street Historic District.
And they may not approve that. They may say, we don't want retail on the first floor.
They don't always like to do it, but they don't have any stipulations that are against it.
Okay.
And they understand that in this project, with the rural nature of Buckhannon, and the historic significance of downtown Main Street, that having retail on the first floor is a critical component to economic development in this case.
My question there would be with, we've tried to get a lot more retail downtown Buckhannon, and it comes in, and 6 months later, who we've got in there, they're gone. So we're having a difficult time keeping the retail part down there now, except for the service industries, the lawyers, the insurance. They've been there for a long time, but they don't serve a purpose for people coming downtown Buckhannon to shop, or keeping your stores open on Saturday afternoons and sometimes on Sunday. It does no good to ask Lance Corey to keep his place open on Sundays. However, the daily grind is a different story. You know, so I see industry or more retail coming in as questionable. But the project itself, I like. I've always been one that would sit back and take a casual look, and very careful, and lost out on a lot of opportunities because of that. It's kind of like a poker game, you know. You're sitting there with 2 aces and 2 queens, and you really want to go for getting a full house, but golly gee, the guy over there might have a flush or something, you know. It's going to be so. The concept of going ahead with it so fast really does bother me a bit, but I understand with the May the 9th date being set out there. It happens. And in this case, I think that we should probably take advantage and go with it, and I'll relinquish the rest of my time to somebody else.
Thank you. Robert, you had a question? Comment?
Yeah. With all respect, Ron, I'm not sitting here to play poker with the taxpayers' money. I have an obligation, I feel we all do, to make sure we know exactly what we're doing and to protect it. Now, I think it's a great idea. I like it. I want more jobs. I want development. But I also have a few concerns. Number one, we give you more money, the city does, than anyone else does. We give you $40,000 a year towards your budget right now. Is that correct?
You give the development authority, not me.
Yes, that's what I mean, the development authority. Now, I've also talked to some people this week because I was concerned about this. I've talked to 3 different attorneys and 2 past mayors. And all of them told me that the city can't do this, that it's not legal. Now, I know what Scott just read, but they said the city cannot take people's property, the people's property, and give to people. It has to be either bid out, it has to be the leased out, it can be traded for other property, but you can't just give it away.
You're right, you cannot give property to people. You can give property to public bodies.
I'm sorry, what was the last part of that?
You are correct, you cannot give property to people, but you can give property to public bodies. And you're not giving me the property, you're giving Upshur Development for the property.
Okay, well, I'm just repeating what I was told, and that's my concern. And I want to make sure that we know everything before we proceed further. I'm not all negative about this. I just think it's the responsibility that we have to make sure everything is completely right. We can't afford mistakes. Mistakes have been made in the past, and we can't afford another one. And a concern I have is when you got the Edmondson building, the Upshur County Development Authority, you had it for a while, and then you sold it to pay bills. Now, how do we know you're not going to sell this? I know you said you can't sell it before 20 years. I probably won't be here in 20 years, but my kids will. Lord help them. How do I know you're not going to sell that? The city's going to be out the land, and the Development Authority, is going to move on somewhere else.
Well, Robin, I'll give you a scenario. And I believe, and you're talking about things that were before my tenure, and I know that the proceeds from the Edmonston property helped considerably to pay the bond down from the investment that was made for the Army Readiness Center and the event center. So that was, a strategic move that, the timeline for the Armory was longer than anticipated and expected, and I think that was something that the Development Authority had to do in order to make a considerable discount on the bond. But I'll also say this: if under the Development Authority, because it is a public body, there's no receipt of property tax, real property tax from that building. Let's say the appraised value is, from a tax base, is $5 million. If we sell that building, the city benefits tremendously from that because it goes into private hands. And that generates a considerable amount of real property tax. So if, and I can't promise you that 10 years, there won't be a situation that the building needs to be sold in order to cover the debt of another project or something that didn't work out on a similar timeline like the Armory. I can't guarantee you that will never happen. And I can guarantee you, well, I can tell you that if we do sell it, the benefits are far outweigh, the benefits don't outweigh the cost, because we have to turn over 75% of whatever we sell that for to the Economic Development Administration. But from a city standpoint, you invested, the property, which was valued at $127,000. Instantly, you recouped $95,000 of that over the period of the time of the building, and there's businesses in there. You're recouping and receiving B&O taxes off of that, so you're generating income. And if it turns into a privately held piece of property, I don't know the valuation, I don't know the rate that you would receive, but I think that you would be a cash positive on that investment.
Well, that's if everything works out as you wanted to. And we don't know that lot is appraised at $127,000. That's what we paid for it several years ago. Just because I paid $90,000 for a house today and I sell it 10 years later, it could be worth quite a bit more.
It's actually less.
And
Appraised for $115,000 the last 12 months.
Yeah, I was going to say,
well, I guess I wasn't privy to that information.
you had an appraisal done on it.
No, it was reported to council, Ron.
But what I'm trying to say is that I think it's a great idea, I think it's wonderful, but I'm concerned about taking something that the taxpayer paid for and just giving it to you, and you can't make me a promise that you're not going to sell it in 10 years. You just said I can't promise you what's going to happen. I would like to have a town hall meeting as well. I would like to know what the taxpayers think about it. And I think that they deserve to have an input. I am not comfortable with just saying, okay, take it. I know the mess that we got into with the CVB, and I don't want that to happen again. That was very costly to us. Cost a lot of money, and I don't want to get into the same mess again. So I think that you're trying to hurry it too much. You're trying to rush it through and hurry it too much, and I'm not comfortable with that.
I'm at the mercy of the federal grant program. If it was up to me, I would much rather take my time, because as Shane can attest, pulling an application together as fast as we did was not fun. Pulling an full application together in 30 days.
That you might be at the mercy of them, but the city is not. We have to make sure what we do is right, not what you do. We have to take care of ourselves. Okay, I'm finished.
Are you familiar with what happened to the Edmonston property?
I'll let you have your time.
Well, I'm just asking.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Robin. I appreciate that. Mary, you got any comments, questions?
Yeah, Shane Whitehair?
Yes.
No, not for Rob.
For Rob. Okay, well, they worked together on this grant application. I just wanted to ask, he's with Region 7?
Yes.
What What are your thoughts about this? Yes. Stand up there with Ron and, or Rob, sorry, Rob.
I'm not standing up.
I've heard everything Rob said already, so.
What did you get on the top?
Where's my PowerPoint? I'm Shane Whitehair. I'm Executive Director of Region 7 Plan Development Council here in Buckhannon, and we represent 7 counties in north central West Virginia, ranging from Tucker to Braxton. My feelings, you know, we obviously, our agency's been in existence for over 40 years, and we represent the local governments throughout this 7-county region. And we do a lot of projects, develop a lot of projects. You know, as Rob said, we're under the mercy of the funds that we apply to and the programs and the agencies that's providing the funds to do these types of things. So, you know, this is an opportunity that I think every community in my particular region would love to have. You know, we do a lot of economic development projects throughout the region. You know, some are not good and some are pretty good. This one's pretty good. I mean, everything's lining out. It's well thought out. Yes, it is happening in a quick pace. You know, I'm not used to that as well. I mean, usually when you're dealing with the federal and state governments, it takes a long time. However, this is an initiative that's providing $45 million to the Appalachian Regional Commission, and also roughly $10 million from EDA. This reminds me of the stimulus package that came out, 2008, 2009. Similar situation. Everybody's rushing to get these funds with projects they've been trying to develop for many years. You know, from my perspective, this meets our comprehensive economic development strategy in that it's providing opportunities for entrepreneurship, providing jobs for rural communities in Appalachia. So, I mean, from a regional perspective, it's not only going to benefit Buckhannon and Upshur County, it's going to benefit the communities around Upshur County as well. So.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Shannon.
Welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't have any other questions. I want to say thanks to Rob again for being more detailed in what you already said. And Mr. Thomas down there, Mr. Inquisitor, I even got some information about that. You know, I've heard from people of the community today too. I've talked to several of them. You know, I'm just looking at it as an opened window. I don't have a problem with this at all. And I don't have a problem with Mr. Rob Hinton with the Upshur County Development Authority. He may be new in it, but I think he's doing an awesome job for the city and Upshur County right now. And, you know, we need to work more collaboratively with our county and this, and we have been lately. And I think this is a result of this. I think they're on a timeline that they're not making it up, but they're not pulling a rabbit out their butts. It's something they need. And if it falls through, it falls through. So what are we out of? Right? So.
All right, thank you very much, Mary. Council, I'm going to go ahead and,
One other thing, Lisa.
well, why don't we'll wrap that up, because I know that there's quite a few people that signed up to speak on this. Some people didn't put what they're speaking for, so I'm just guessing. Jerry Henderson, did you want to speak on this subject?
Yes, I do.
All right, please, you have the floor. And you don't have to come up to the podium in this case, since it's so far away.
Don't mind. My name's Jerry Henderson, and I'm here tonight to speak in strong opposition to this rush to spend the money of citizens of Buckhannon. Once again, I make the point, it's not your money. The citizens of Buckhannon paid for that in one way or another, and the citizens have a right to decide how it should be spent. There is other code, and I respect the attorney. I too have talked to at least 2 different lawyers today. West Virginia State Code Section 81218 speaks to the requirement for municipalities to dispose of property. So that, along with 71211, is one of those cases where the attorneys go to battle on it. And that's the future of what you may be doing here tonight. Let me ask some questions, because I have been listening very attentively to some of what's been going on, and I've heard quite a bit of things that I've heard before. I've heard the same presentation on the Edmonston building. I've heard the same presentation on the Latham building. I've heard the same presentation on the Armory building. Let's ask, why is it being done? Who gains? Who participated in prior discussions outside of city chambers in making this decision? Were all council members given the same information at the same time as others? I don't believe it was. And when you're walking down Main Street and you see people on that property making measurements and talking about they're going to be working on that project, and you ask a city council person and they say, I don't know what you're talking about. And that person's from Morgantown and in here looking at our property that belongs to the city of Buckhannon, and that city council person hasn't heard a word. Not a word. So who's doing the talking? Who appraised the property? Did that appraisal consider the money spent on demolishing the previous structure, which was done because at that time, some people felt that the building was falling in because of the substructure underneath. The land was giving way. The building had a crack coming down in the corner of it. Went ahead and tore the building down. And now all of a sudden, that land is strong again. It's going to have no problem holding a 3-story structure instead of a small 1-structure garage. 3-to-1 weight, but all of a sudden it got stronger. What about the money that was spent on the land redesign and all the other actions paid to bring the property to its current status? Not everybody's aware, but there was a lot more money spent on demolishing that building, bringing some of that, the property to be knocked down, leveled off, graded, etc. Was that taken into consideration? This one, Dave, is probably one that you will like. Was there a needs assessment done to determine if we need this? In every project that I remember on City Council, the question was always asked, have we proven there is a need? I haven't heard anybody produce a needs assessment. There is the same type of building supplying the same services with the same advanced technological equipment down at the Mollahan Center in Fairmont. It's not fully utilized. So will ours be fully utilized? We're guessing. Was the grant shared with City Council to review what they are agreeing to tonight? I don't think so. Mary, did you see the grant? Robin? Dave? You are going to vote on something tonight you haven't even read. You don't know what's in it. When did the Development Authority have first contact with the city regarding this issue? In February, in March? When? Who was the person they first contacted about it? Did that person represent all of City Council or one person? What paperwork has already been filed? Do we know? What letters of support or letters of intent to occupy have been signed? I heard tonight about 40%, a local company, another company. Let me ask you something. If you were an investor or business person here in Buckhannon, wouldn't you like to have known that you might have had an opportunity to get in that building? Who are these people that got first choice? How do we know who they are? Where do they come from? What kind of businesses is it? Did the locals have the same fair playing field? I don't think so. And who are those potential businesses? Who picked those businesses to be told about the project in advance of local investors who may have wanted and deserved consideration? By the way, they were even told about the project before your city council was. Why has at least one firm been at the property in preparation of bidding on some phase of the construction? Have local firms been contacted to do the same? Why did the Development Authority go into the real estate development business? Do we need them to be in real estate development business Or do we need them to be bringing businesses into our city? They purchased the Edmondson property, and we don't know what was gained from that property. I heard tonight that they took the money that they gained from Edmondson and paid off some bills and then used it to settle some bond project on the event center. Did anybody bring any money back to the city? City invested money in that. Did we get any return on our dollar? They acquired the Latham House and promised it would be used for the same purpose. Did they ever write the grants that they promised to do to accomplish this? It still stands as of today, empty, vacant, and without any purpose. They occupied and didn't occupy. They acquired the local armory, and they touted it would be used for the same type of purpose. But its only use so far is as a paintball facility. I'd like to know how much revenue you've gotten from the paintball people. Is it enough to even pay for the upkeep on that building? I'm now hearing, oh, the Latham House is in the flood zone. I have to tell you guys, that Latham House has been in that flood zone since the day it was built. We knew that before it was purchased. Now all of a sudden, it's the reason that we're going to step over here and give away more property. It was in the floodplain all the time. I will ask you a couple of questions. Is this action going to be legal, or will it involve another lawsuit? Is this action being ramrodded through quickly to prevent a new mayor and council members to have input? May the 9th is pretty close to another important day. Maybe the day after? Where is the transparency that you promised this community that we talked about previously? It isn't my words that you touted what you would be doing with the Latham House and with the Armory. You put it in publications. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. Down at the Latham House, title was made to the property and acquired for $60,000. It's being held by the Development Authority. But listen to this. 4 investors have guaranteed the mortgage. However, donations are most welcome to cover necessary payments and expenses. Who are those 4 investors?
One's right here.
We never knew it.
Who are the donors?
We never knew it.
I donate.
We never knew
It's
it.
also not owned by the city.
That's right.
It never was.
No. Well, the
Private
city,
property bought by 4 individuals.
And Jeremy,
I know
I'm
that-
going to ask that you stick to the lot. We can't
Well-
question what the development, I understand. what you're
okay,
going with
there
it.
are publications that will say that those other properties were bought for the same purpose that we're being tonight, that this property is. So there are a lot of things that have been said tonight, and I want to just close on a couple of them. You said, what if Walmart leaves? People, you better think about that. We got an $800,000 commitment to the event center. If Walmart does leave, and they're closing some of the Walmarts, we don't know if this one's going to close or not. Who pays the $800,000? That's us. And we're giving away a piece of property. I don't know who appraised it, but I'm telling you, as a private investor, I would have paid more than $115,000 for it, and I think other people in this room would have. So that property is a very important asset. And if we lose Walmart and their B&O tax, we're hurting severely. So we don't need any more commitments for property that we can't pay for. There have been several other things that have been said that I really believe that comes down to a lack of planning. David mentioned a plan. This city has been very short on planning for the future. We always seem to jump I got a project here, I got a project there, I got a project over here. And everybody has a good reason for it. And statistics can say anything you want them to say. But the city has people who are struggling day by day to put their kids in school and to pay their bills. And now we're going to add, well, maybe some more. And when we talk about the money we're going to be taking in, how long does it take to build the property? How long does it take to occupy the property? How long does it take for a job to come? What if the jobs don't come? Remember the oil and gas and the silos that we were going to have? Didn't last all that long. So you can't go into debt based on what you think is coming. That's a very risky thing to do. So I hope that you will consider that tonight and either table this project or vote it down.
Thank you, Jerry. Jerry, you bring up some very good questions, and I would ask that you submit the ones that are not rhetorical. I know there are quite a few rhetorical ones in there as well. But I would ask that you do that. Mr. Gigax, I see you, sir, but I'm going to go through this other list, because if that takes too
One
long.
question on her, what does the city get off that lot other than my parking fines?
As of right now,
Yeah.
your parking fines and the permits.
Okay.
That's all we got. All right,
Good luck to you, Laura.
Robert Osborne.
That's the choice the city makes.
Mr. Osborne.
Thanks, Mayor, Council, for hearing me out. My name is Robert Osborne, and I'm speaking out against this development issue, and I will keep this brief. I only want to mention, one, does this at all need to go through the Planning Commission, which is the city's commission on land use? So I don't know if that needs to go through that or not, but just something to clarify if it needs to go through that or not. But in 2014, I'll just mention the Armory briefly, because I know you want to focus on the lot. When that whole project started, there was dreams of calling Microsoft and high-tech companies in there, because the backbone's there, the infrastructure's there. Let's get these high-tech companies in here. Never happened. There was also talk about that time about a business incubator partnership with West Virginia Wesleyan College. If that happened, I've never heard of it, and neither does anybody I talk to. So what happened to that business incubator idea? What I understand happened back then. You know, you are risking taxpayer property, and are you willing to take the risk for a dream or a speculation of what might come? The same dreams and speculation that happened 2 years ago that didn't come, you're betting again that they're going to come with no guarantee. And as he said, it is a risk. He mentioned 1 in 15 opportunities actually come to fruition, actually happen. You know, how long is it going to take? Is it 30, 45, 60, 200 companies contacted before you get 2 or 3 in that building? You know, what time frame are we looking at? You know, there's no guarantee there's going to be any, and it is hard to keep businesses downtown. More businesses come and leave than actually stay, which is sad in our community. Could that property be used? I know you talk about other business opportunities. Would there be a better benefit if you had a specific company that you could put on that property? You know, if the city gave you that property for a guaranteed, okay, this business is coming in for 10 years, would that not be a better benefit to downtown versus a speculation or a dream of companies that may or may not come if you could coax a company into that location? You also mentioned the B&O tax. I believe the B&O tax, is there an exemption for under 1 million? So I don't think you're going to get any B&O tax out of it, because I doubt there's going to be a company in there that's going to do more than $1 million business. So I don't think that that's going to happen, so I don't think that's a consideration. And he also keeps touting the event center. And the one thing that I know the city's donated money to the event center and funds some of that, but worries me about the deal with the event center is it also has chased companies away. The Shriners are gone. The craft shows are gone.
Yeah.
Because the prices are too high, they can't afford it, there's no negotiation in any of that. So, you know, touting the event center is one thing, and I mean, I know they do some business out there, but they've also chased businesses away, something to consider. And, you know, coaxing businesses in there, you know, the city has no control over rent or any of that. Is the rent going to be so high that no business can afford to come in? You know, there are a lot of places in town that a rent is pretty cheap, and you still can't keep businesses in them. So those are my thoughts as a citizen, and thank you for your time and hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Appreciate it. Next we have Mike Skidmore. Is this about this project as well?
Yes, part of it is.
Please stick to the subject. You have the floor. If we stick to the subject at hand, though, we've got 8 more people that are going to need to speak to.
More time you take, more time I take.
All right.
One of the things I was listening here this evening, and Pam and Mr. Thomas alluded to a couple of facts, and you avoided both their questions. You came up with different answers. One of them was the parking for this building, and you completely sidestepped that. So if this building were to be built, is the city going to be saddled with having to build a parking building or have to put in a parking garage or provide parking spaces for these people? And as Mr. Osborne alluded to, the fact that, you know, it's hard to keep businesses downtown. And when you build a building like that and you've got payments that have to be made on this $1 million, I wonder if people are going to be able to afford to rent. And the other side of the coin, as he pointed out too, the city put a lot of money into this event center, and there's 80 people comes in out there once a month to train, and there's barely enough parking for those 80 people to park. So how could you have an event unless everybody carpooled and rode a bus? So, but back to this subject right here, you know, it's the city's property, and one of the things that Mr. Thomas made a point of, why is there such a big hurry? I mean, why do we have to do this on the 9th, the day before the election, I might add, if people don't know that? You know, what is 2 or 3 more days going to make? Difference is it going to make to where we can have public input, to where the citizens and the business people of the city can have input to it, and not just what the city council decides here this evening. Why is there such a big hurry? We don't have the grant. You've not been told you're going to get the grant, so why is there the big hurry? And I'm sure, as the mayor pointed out last council meeting, I don't live in the city limits, but I own property in the city limits. I can't say that for the mayor, he doesn't. But anyhow, as being a citizen and a business owner in Upshur County, you know, I think it's a bad idea until we run it by everybody that is going to be involved, that's going to have to pay this bill back. And when you get up there this 10 years, if it don't work, then what happens? Well, this building goes up for sale, city's out of the property, out of the whole 9 yards.
Thank you, Mr. Skidmore. Christine Bennett.
Well, I agree with everything that everyone has said, and they made a lot of points that I was going to make, so I'll condense mine a little bit. I read through the resolution, and yes, there is a clause in there that gives the city back the property if the grant falls through or they do not get the grant. There's nothing in there that gives you the right to drop out if you read the grant and don't approve of what's going on. You have no say once you pass the resolution and give the property to the development authority. That is not a very smart decision as a public board. No one has read the grant. I have been a grant writer. I was a grant writer for 8 years. So I understand the turnaround times, the quickness of sometimes of the deadlines. You guys have just done a pre-app. You haven't even been asked to send in the regular application yet. I'm pretty sure that giving the town a week to hold a town hall and an election will not mess up your all's ability to submit your application if asked to. The other thing that I would say is you've been asked about the soil and about any testing that you've done on that lot, and your answer was, it doesn't make sense to us to spend money to do this when we don't know we're going to get approval for the project. We can't waste that money. That's a great response. However, you also said to the council that you need a decision tonight because you want to start spending money tomorrow on engineering and architecture and plans.
Did not say that. Did not say spending money tomorrow.
But before the night.
This grant is different. I've stayed quiet. This grant is different. I understand that you may be a grant writer. You have some history. This grant is different. This is a different timeline, a different setup than what they're even used to in DC. What I can tell you is that we need to have a commitment from the city before we are asked to be invited to the application. And I can tell you this, that we are expecting to be invited
to submit a full application. We will have 30 days. Can we wait? No. This is an opportunity.
Yes,
And no,
you asked.
have you read the federal funding opportunity for power?
I read your grant, because
It's-
I can promise you that it spells it in your grant, what you have planned for the building.
It-
And we don't even know that.
It does have what we're planned in a vague, roughly 27,000 square foot building.
Council and to the public of the city,
Not because it's not the full application. It's not the binding agreement.
but you want them to donate tax-funded property without any recourse, without any ability, nothing in their resolution that says if, once they look at that grant, if they say, oh, wait a minute, we're gonna have another mom and pop shop, they have no right to stop or take that property back. There's the way the resolution is written, and I would advise you guys to rethink that.
The city has that prerogative if we add another sentence or two in the resolution.
Yes.
But the Development Authority yesterday made it very clear to Mr. Hinton that, if we're asked to submit for the full grant, that there would be a process that the city and the Development Authority board members and whoever else we decide needs to be involved would review the grant and fine tune and say, hey, we can't do this. You're familiar with grants, the specificity sometimes, you don't want the darn grant. It costs you more money than what it's worth. So, I think we must protect the city. I agree with what you're saying and what Robin has said and others, but, passing a resolution that gives the intent that this could be a possibility does not preclude that we can go in any time and say, hey, we're not going to do it. We got to make sure that is part of what we're going to decide this evening. I'm concerned about the 30 days. To me, maybe next week, after we do this resolution and whatever we have to do to fine tune it, Rob gets a commitment that, hey, we want you to apply on the 9th. That doesn't mean we can't continue a process of talking to the community and at some point in time say, we don't want to do this now. That's my position. I like to take the opportunity, but at the same time protect us. We need to protect us, period.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, can I say something?
Sure.
Well, I don't know how long you guys knew about this, but if you knew you only had 30 days to do this, why didn't you come to us sooner? Because Ron knew about it, this one knew about it, I don't know who else knew about it. I found out about 3 weeks ago at the Chamber of Commerce, first thing I even heard of it.
We knew it conceptually. We didn't know anything about the
Right.
Well,
timelines whatsoever.
conceptually, it's the same thing as
No,
if you're
no,
going to sign a
no,
resolution.
It is not.
No, it's not.
All right, we've asked the
It's not.
questions. Let's get through the comments. We've really turned this into a
Mr.
town
Hinton
hall.
told us up to 60 days. You told us that, Rob, up to 60 days to do the application.
Yeah, it's up to 60 days. As you wait and go past 30 days, other applications have gone in and you're more competitive.
But
You're
they don't
not
make any-
isolated.
You don't make any decisions any sooner.
I guess, I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of taking this personally.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Nope. Don't take it personally.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to move on to a little bit more. Mr. Clemens, let's bring a little bit of civility here. Mr. Rich Clemens,
Thank you, Mayor Rivers.
There's civility right there, right, Rich?
Yeah.
That's right. I thought, well, I'd really enjoy a nice rainy evening down at City Council instead of listening to Jim Justice and whoever else is on TV these days. And I find myself right in the middle of a good old town argument. I think you need to look forward, not backwards. History is a wonderful teacher, but it also shows a lot of mistakes. The property in question, I think, showing that image, which I saw for the first time this evening, is a very good representation for downtown historic Buckhannon. And I fought for many years on the Historic Landmarks Commission to keep the look we have. And that does it. 3 stories, flat roof, brick. That's the look we have. It's a new building, yeah. You're not going to put Giganet Ethernet in an old structure. It's fiberglass. You don't just bend it and pull on it and everything else. It's got to be laid in the wall. You know, we're talking about what we could bring to the hub of Buckhannon. And that's what I see it, as the hub of Buckhannon. Not for the agricultural age, if you've ever read The Third Wave, not for the industrial age, but for the knowledge age, for the information age, which we're actually into by about 20 years. If you go out to, and I got a son that doesn't live in town, why not? Because there's no business, there's no work here for the kinds of things he does. He sits beside a computer all day. Half the time he can work at home. We don't have that connectivity. You know, what you could bring to Buckhannon is not just a frickin' building. You're bringing gigabit Ethernet. You're bringing high technology. You're bringing the possibility for some of our children and grandchildren to stay here. That's what you're buying. That's a trade. That's an instant trade. That gravel parking lot down there, I wouldn't pay more than $115,000. Maybe Jerry would. Let's sell it to Jerry.
Do it.
But the value of that building is not the building, is not the clients, it's the jobs. You know, I've been in the job of teaching millenniums. They just started calling them that. They were Generation X and Z and Y and who knows what before that. Technology. It's all I've done for the last 35, 40 years. And that technology is here today, now, and that's what they need. If you go up 79, look at all those square buildings that are popping up on the hillsides. Why are all our businesses in town that you don't attract downtown, why are they out there by Walmart? Or on up the road at the new plaza area? They like new buildings. You know, if you go in and refurbish a building like the Chamber of Commerce and the CVB does, that, you know, that can be a very valuable space. But when you're talking about attracting 50, 60, 70,000 kinds of dollar jobs to Buckhannon, you're going to have to do something besides coal mines and oil rigs and these kinds of things. We've got to think forward. We've got to keep the kids here with jobs. Almost all of the graduates I've had for the last 15 or 20 years, I keep track of them on Facebook. I know where they are. I know where their birthdays are. I know what they're doing. They tell me. You know, I got students in Japan that are, you know, they're out. They got a new job. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're not doing it in Buckhannon. They're not doing it in Upshur County. They're not doing it in West Virginia. We need to change the concept of what we have to offer here to keep the millenniums in this area. We got beautiful surroundings. We've got clean air. We've got wonderful facilities, but we don't have anything that's high-tech. We got thousands of people that graduate every year in college in this region. We got more colleges than we know what to do with. Where are the graduates? They all go out of state. I got a kid right now that works locally. He's going to take a job in Mississippi in a couple of weeks because the oil service is gone. Likely not to come back. We got to build for tomorrow, not for today, not for yesterday, but for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bob Skinner.
Well, I am the president of the Development Authority. How I got that job, I'm now wondering. Sam said it would be really easy. I don't know if I could say much better than what Rich said. This is an opportunity that comes along. The timeline is quick. We know. The Development Authority is not made up of a bunch of people that have special interests at heart. It's made up of people from businesses across the county. people who volunteer their time, people who are always looking forward, trying to find opportunity to better the county and to create job opportunities. I understand the property and the cost and the citizens' taxpayer dollars. I guess I've never looked at it as a gift. I've looked at it as a joint investment. The Development Authority is going to borrow $1 million. We have vetted this with Rob for the last 2 months. He's had an idea about this for a long time, a vision and a dream. We never thought it would ever happen. And then this grant opportunity came along. So we could decide and say, well, that's a nice idea, Rob. We don't want to do that. Or we could say, we're in the middle of a place that has losing jobs to energy right and left. We hear about drug problems where people have nothing to do. We hear about no economic development, no restaurants. Here we are handed a chance to create a project in the middle of Main Street that's going to create new jobs and new opportunities with spin-off effects that are going to help existing businesses stay on Main Street. I understand everybody's worry and concern. We've got to figure out the parking. I'm like Rob. If parking is the thing that we're worried about, and that's what's going to keep us from doing this project, then that's crazy. Buckhannon, over the last 5 years, has had more accolades probably than any small town in the state. We are the envy of most people. Morgantown's got all kind of economic development off of WVU, but it's not on High Street. Fairmont and Bridgeport have had all kind of economic development, but it is not in the center of Bridgeport, nor it is in the center of Clarksburg or Fairmont. We stand here tonight with an opportunity to create economic development, an opportunity for new jobs on a small town in the heart of it that will make our small town vibrant forever. Are we going to immediately fill that building? Probably not. But I think we are located perfectly with all the things that this city and the people that worked in this city before have done to make us very attractive to people that are going to want to work in this building. We have great sidewalks, a great safe place, a college at one end, a hospital at the other, walking trails, a great way of life. Why we would want to pass up this opportunity would be, to me, a travesty. This is an opportunity. I said last 2 weeks ago, it is a leap of faith. But I believe, like Rich, we have to look forward. We have to look forward. I want to be able to look at people who have high school graduates to say, there's possibility and opportunities for you to stay here and live and work in your hometown. How many kids from Buckhannon who have left would love to have the opportunity to come back here and live and work? To me, this is something that we have to do. We vetted this as a development authority. Like David said, we know that grants, I have a lot of experience with grants too. There's a $10 million grant at the college that was under my direction, I might add. I didn't write it, but that girl reports to me. I see grants that come all the time. You do have to do exactly what the feds say. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. What's said is said. And as an authority, we are going to vet and look at that very carefully. And if we can't adhere or make that work, we have already decided we are backing away from that project. I believe from this point forward, if we go down this path, we have to be transparent with everyone so that we all know that we're in this together. I believe this is the opportunity for Buckhannon that's just not going to happen very often. And I urge council to approve this resolution tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Appreciate that. Attorney Blank.
I understand signs are trending now, so I have mine. Okay, vote for this resolution. Sorry. I just want to make it real. And it's very real for me. 1991, my family and I moved here by choice. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have family. We didn't have any reason to come here except we thought this was the place to be. We wrote to the chamber. The woman who wrote back to us, you could tell she loved where she lived. We came to look at it, and here we are. We've worked here. I raised my son here. My son now works out of town because there's no job for him. When I worked in Elkins, I had a really good job. And I did business near my really good job. I had my car fixed, I did my grocery shopping, I was part of a club. That's what will happen with the people who work in this new building. They will shop and they will look for services and things that they can get close to where they work on their lunch hour. I chose to leave my job because of a series of life events that wanted me to stay close to home and be close to my town. I now work 4 part-time jobs because I can't find decent work with 35 years experience in management and business. We need jobs here. We don't need oil and gas. It's nice to have them because they're good paying jobs. But that's not going to keep us going in the long term. And no, we can't just say, let's put something new here and offer it to existing businesses to shuffle the cards. We want new businesses. We need new blood coming in, infusing new life in this great community that we have. There's a lot of reasons to be here. We just want to make it better. And I'm asking each and every one of you to vote yes. You want to see my sign?
Thank you, Maria.
What's it say, Maria?
It says, oh, that's right, I'm sorry, David. It says vote yes, Main Street project.
Alrighty, next we have Scott Preston. Mr. Preston, sir.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Sir.
I came tonight to speak in favor of the project, but I've also learned a lot tonight that this is a very emotionally charged issue. And I've heard a number of things that I think are key. One, that if you vote, and I encourage you to do, to vote for the resolution, that is not a firm commitment, but we do have outs, correct, Rob? We can say, we don't like it. And at times we're safe. I think that's a pretty good out for it. So we're really not committing anything. I've also heard a whole list of questions, passionate questions, emotional questions, based on past, based on current, and they can be answered, and I think they need to be answered. But when I sat on council, one of my favorite words, for those who remember me, was lugubrious. And we would talk the hair off of an issue. And I would encourage council to take a little bit of a risk, because I've heard every one of you say, this is good. Most of you said, but. Take the myth, this is good part, and put it in your gut, and vote your gut tonight. Also, amend that resolution and say, on whatever date it is next week, we are going to have a town hall meeting. There are over 50 people here tonight right now. I'd be surprised if you would have 50 people in another town hall meeting, and most of the people who would be interested are the people who are already here. The deal about elections really doesn't come into play, because while elections do take place, that council sits until the 1st of July. And by the 1st of July, if we don't have a decision, it's out the window, for sure. So these are the folks that need to lead us into the future, not those that are on the ballot. And so I ask you not to be lugubrious, to leave a little bit of hair on the dog tonight. Vote for it, but also set a time right now tonight to have a town hall meeting, to answer Jerry's questions, to answer Robin's questions, to answer everybody's questions from both sides. But set those meetings right now and then be done with it. We don't have to delay. You can make a decision and go for the gut. I encourage you to vote yes for the resolution. Thank you.
Mr. President.
I would urge you to vote yes for this resolution. And I'm speaking as a citizen and also as the director of Mountain Cap, and most people might say, well, what's Mountain Cap have to do with it? Well, we're not just a community action program. We're a community development corporation as well. So we've done housing development, we do business lending, so we're involved in economic development. And the creation of new jobs, any job, is better than no jobs. And these are potentially very high-paying jobs. And one of the things that I didn't hear from, and I do sit on the Economic Development Council, so I want to disclose that. But one of the things I haven't heard Rob talk about tonight, maybe did at a prior meeting, is how the incubation center works, the innovation center, and all the connections it has to WVU and other places to ensure that some of these ideas that might percolate, entrepreneurial ideas, do really have a really good opportunity to flourish and grow and create new jobs. And that's the main purpose of this. While it's nice, as he said, they fought to have retail, but that flows in with what's happening on Main Street already. It's going to wrap around the corner of Main Street, down Spring Street. What a nice segue down towards Java. Draws people up to Main, draws people down to the park. I think that was an excellent addition and worth fighting for. Office space, I think they've already got some commitments, and there's still room for people who are local. If they want to move, there's room for new businesses. So I don't see that there's any downside, really. And I think it's been well said when you say, you know, you aren't committing to anything tonight. You're saying, we believe in the possibilities. And if we aren't here to believe in the possibilities, what do we believe in? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, we appreciate that. I'm not seeing anyone else signed up on this, on this subject. And since we still have a long way to go, Mr. Hinton, I will allow you to review a couple of, why don't you go ahead and close and then we'll move on with our part.
I'd like to apologize that I kind of lost my cool a little bit. You should have staggered like for and against instead of all the against up front. You know, it is what it is. I wish it was different. I wish we had longer. I wish we weren't going to get word tomorrow or Monday. But you know, one thing I'm not, and you know, I'm not deceitful. Never have been. I'm actually honest to a fault. And I think you can see that tonight because I told you there's no guarantee it could work. There's no guarantee we're going to get. I could have lied and said we're guaranteed to get this grant. We're guaranteed that this is going to work. And it's no, I'm not going to tell you that. So, you know, when I say believe in me, I really mean that. You know, honest to a fault. You know, Christian faith, God-fearing individual, and I have no motive other than what is the future going to be like for Buckhannon? What is the future going to be like for West Virginia? And that's my motivation. And I fell in love with this kind of work when I was in an MBA program, and we did a needs assessment for senior housing. And I got to meet a couple of people that I do work with on a statewide network level. I said, how do I do that? How do I make that a career? And fortunately, I'm very blessed to be standing in this position. I think tonight's the toughest day I've had on the job. But I am there. You know, I mean, I wrote up talking points last night until 11 o'clock at night, and I emailed Bob the talking points, and kind of so tired that I forgot to attach it and realized that about a half hour later while I was laying in bed. But you want to go have a cup of coffee? You want to talk about it? You want to see a copy of the grant? We'll send it out. We can send it to the newspaper. You're welcome to read it. I mean, hey, if you want to review the final application, I would be more than willing. Christy, is it? Christine, I'm sorry. You have a history writing grants. We're only as strong as we are united. If you want to review what we have written and give some points, you know, we need all the help we can get. I mean, it's a team effort. I don't talk lightly about the partnership. I don't talk lightly about teaming up, is working together. And I appreciate those who have supported this project. It's very moving. Right, Stan, you making those signs, that was pretty cool. But I'll cut, you know, I'm ready to sit down, to be honest with you.
Rob, you know, we appreciate your effort and, of course, the Development Authority, and we want to appreciate everyone on either opposed or in favor of this. As we mentioned in the last council meeting, it was the first time any of the citizens even heard about this project or understand what it's about. This is exactly the kind of dialogue and things that citizens need to be involved in, and we need to hear on both sides of the subject. But let's move on from that subject a little bit. Let's get to the department and board reports. Mr. Doss, City Administrator, you got your report, sir?
Yes, I do. Just one item, it's a financial item tonight. You do have in front of you the financial report ending April 30th, 2016 in front of you. To date, our revenues are $3,181,559.25. Now our expenditures to date, $3,357,805.03. Which is still showing us a negative difference of revenues to expenditures of $176,245.78. I am pleased to report, however, that we have met our budgeted revenue projections. We met those just a couple days ago, actually. So early May, we now have 2 months essentially of over or under projected revenue that we should be receiving. So that is a good thing. Obviously, the expenditures are more than revenues for this year. I'm going to be honest, I don't anticipate that we will make that up. Really, a lot of that, by the end of the fiscal year, a lot of that is in part to the fact that we've spent a lot of money on projects and done a lot of things. And I know we have talked about that when we were doing this budget last year, and you're seeing the results of that. I do anticipate for the next fiscal year us kind of getting a little bit back on track, some of our projects and some of our expenditures, but I do want to have that for the record, you know, as presented. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Doss. Any comments or questions from Mr. Doss regarding the financial report? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Doss. Next, we have Mr. Arnold, Street and Waste Department.
Mayor, I'm going to just stand here if it's okay. And I'll try to only take about half the time Ralph did. Board reports. Consolidated Public Works Board met on April the 28th. Laura Meta presented information on the Main Street sound system. The board approved a request for a disabled parking space at 133 Florida Street. Also approved the 2016 BUHS Homecoming Parade request. Approved the 15-16 budget revision. Michael Doss presented the Consolidated Public Works 16-17 budget. The board discussed loading zone use. Also approved the Stockard Youth Center 4th of July event request. Planning Commission presented some parking reports. The board directed me to obtain some insurance and schedule from the Youth Soccer Association for the use of fields over at the North Buckhannon Park. The Historic Landmark Commission presented information on signage for the Historic District, and Bryson Van Ostrom was there also to present some information on parking. Waste collection met this evening. The board approved the 15-16 budget revision, also approved the 16-17 waste collection budget. The 2016 Make It Shine month activities, we had 75.29 tons of material brought in. Cost the waste collection $9,700.
for that event. Also approved the use of the solid waste complex to hold the tire amnesty event, which is June the 4th, from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. The board approved the solicitation of bids for a new waste collection truck. Also approved the hiring of Holler Gregory for a full-time employee, starting pay of $9 an hour. Transfer station did 2,351 transactions, 1,298.65 tons, a grand total money of $109,580.76. Recycling was 104.43 tons. Street department report, we've completed the installation of curbs and sidewalk along Madison Street. Also completed most of the ADA improvements to the restrooms at the North Buckhannon Park. We continue patching potholes as weather permits, and again, that's been very difficult this season. Also, the contractor will begin the paving projects as soon as the weather permits. We've got several sidewalk projects with the implementation of the new sidewalk initiative program. We've picked up several for this season. Also, the crews installed 25 more ground sockets for the flags at the cemetery. This brings the total to 35 flags that will be displayed for Memorial Day. The local veterans groups with the youth groups will be installing the flags on the 26th of May at 6 p.m. And I finalized the brochure, and hopefully we'll have it printed next week. The cameras are in operation at the city park. And the last thing that I would add, and I think it's a part of, also part of Vince's report, the board report, is please, been seeing a lot of it already early spring. Please do not blow your grass into the street as it stops up our storm drains. That's all I have unless there's questions.
Any questions or comments, Mr. Arnold? Thank you, and thank you for your crews for all the work that they do. All right, next we have Jay Holly in your packets. I think we have a list of questions that are talking about that in a moment.
We're just bouncing around there. We're all on all sides tonight. It's really quick. It's the first page after the blue one. The water treatment plant project, it's continuing. It's going nicely. All the treatment process equipment has been removed from Train A. They've actually started the concrete repairs on filter bed 1 with the cracks, and they're prepped for next week to begin the crack repairs and the minor concrete repair on the exterior walls for the settlement basin, weather permitting. So we're happy with that. The only thing that I want to report or revise was that the last time I reported the project to be completed by September 10th, but I forgot to add in there that when we added the 3 additive alternates for some additional improvements, it extended the contract date 30 days. Nothing new on Route 20. The SCADA system for the water distribution system for both the distribution system and the water treatment plant's about 95% complete. Hope to have that done next week and be able to report to you. They've actually started doing some of the punch list items now, so that'll be up and running. Jerry talked briefly about the North Buckhannon City Park. The only thing I had to add there is that the permeable concrete, which must be used on the outside parking areas and walking/access ramps to the 3 pavilions and to the restroom, must be approved by FEMA. And I haven't got those results back, or haven't received those. I was using bad English there. My wife would not like that. As I reported last month, I've kind of postponed working on the FEMA grant generator for the raw water intake until I get some small projects off the table, but I hope to get back on that in about 2 or 3 weeks. And lastly, but not least, the Army Corps Flood Control Project, Virginia Spirea Botanical Survey. Letters have been sent out to the 35 property owners whose property adjoins the Buckhannon River along the 4.5-mile stretch, letting them know of an upcoming meeting next Thursday, May the 12th at 6 o'clock. Discuss the requirements and the actual activities that will be involved in these botanical surveys. They're really simple. It's a float trip down the river during certain times of the year because the Virginia Spirea, which is a threatened species of plant that occurs in only 6 states, one of them being and locations, one of them being the Buckhannon River. They just do a float trip. It only blooms between July and September. So they do a float trip during those time periods, and if they spy or locate the Virginia Spirea from the river, they have to get out, do a GPS locate, mark it on a map. I've got that bids package almost complete. I should have it ready for advertisement by the end of next week. put it into paper, advertise for mechanical surveyors, and get that project started. That's the first step of 2 before we can actually start the river cleanup, because we found out from U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we must do a Virginia spirea survey and the freshwater mussel survey. So we got 2 more smaller steps before we begin the project, and that's all I have. If there are no further questions or comments. I would like to take one last opportunity to thank not thank my mother, but say Happy Mother's Day to my mom, my wife, and all the other mothers out there. Enjoy this Sunday, and that's all I have.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jay. All right, we got Vincent Smith, Code Enforcement Officer. In your packets, you also have his report, Council.
He's on that side.
I'll switch sides. Hey, Ron. Change it up a little bit. On the Zoning Board of Appeals met on March 30th. They approved the construction of a garage on 7 Gum Street. The reason for that appeal was it did not meet setback requirements as required by Ordinance 244. It was approved. Activity report, we've done from February 1st to April 29th, we've done 80 building permits for a total cost and total value of $1,058,415. Permit fee, $13,517, and electrical permit fee, $1,741. I had 31 zoning applications received. 25 were approved, 5 are still pending. 1 was denied, which was the zoning, the variance. Had 1 appeal, had 5 asbestos certifications, 2 elevation certificates, and 2 zoning and flood questions. Had multiple trash and abandoned vehicle complaints. Animal complaints seem to be cropping up more and more now for some reason. And we kind of received them and remedied them to the best of our ability. The Planning Commission met on April 19th. We discussed parking, Main Street. We discussed street signs, changing some of that, giving us some different options there. Our next meeting will be July 19th. Historic Landmarks Commission, we met on April 27th, and we discussed street signs and historic plaques in the historic district. So the next meeting there will be July 18th. Housing Enforcement, we just met on May 4th. We discussed the FEMA buyout lots. We're still trying to get them identified. We've kept people off. We still have some encroachments, not as many as we had, but we are going to now maintain them as a city. As soon as we identify their exact location, we are now going to maintain them, grass and everything, as a city. It's going to become our responsibility. Right-of-way encroachments, we're still working on them. We're getting closer. The fencing for the swimming pools, we're going to now, this summer, go under the International Property Maintenance Code, which you all adopted about 3 months ago, which is a little more lenient on the swimming pools. Anything 2 foot and under does not need a fence. And that's where we had some issues. The grandparents would bring out a little wading pool for the grandkids. We said, well, it has to have a 6 foot fence around it. So we had a lot of issues there. I think we're heading in the right direction here. So that was a good thing. What Jerry said about the grass cuttings, that's an issue. When you mow your grass, turn it to the inside. Don't blow it out in our streets. We can cite you for that, so please, blow your grass in your streets, don't clog up our storm sewers, all right? The vacant building registration, we just adopted a resolution that now the appeals process will go to the Housing Enforcement Board instead of the council, which I think is a great thing to get you guys out of it. Let's appeals board deal with those kind of problems. We're real close to getting letters sent out. We have 156 vacant properties in the city that we've identified. So we're real close to getting those letters sent out. Our next meeting will be July 27th, and we have no zoning board of appeals pending. Any questions?
I have one question. yes.
Go ahead.
Vincent, on, oh, there it is. You know, we worked on in the planning commission, streets and signage, not just on Main Street, but on side streets and other streets, okay? And the landmark commission also are doing streets and signs. Is that just strictly in the historic district?
Theirs was just in the historic district.
Okay, and we turned ours into the Consolidated Public Work Board, Jerry's board,
And I
last
believe
week.
the Historic Landmarks Commission did as well, from what I
Okay.
understand.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith, any complaints so far on your building permit fees?
I've had none.
Okay.
One that I guess was brought to council is the only one I've heard about. No others have any, and you can see the money that was generated. We've generated in that quarter over $13,000.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the work that you do. You've been really busy and keeping us on track. Council, I will point you as well to the building electrical demolition permits as well. Please take a look at those fees that are on there, usually averaging $18 to $25 in most cases. All right, Scott McClure, City Attorney.
Scott McClure, City Attorney here. Got 3 issues to report to council on. One issue is in your packet. It is a sewer fee increase in accordance with our last meeting where the mayor directed me, based on the recommendations of the sewer board and Mr. Dingus, I believe.
Yep.
It is again, a draft ordinance. It's not ready for any action yet. It's not on the agenda for handling, but it recognizes a 20% increase in the current rates. 0 to 2,000 gallons goes from $8.30 per 1,000 gallons to $9.96. Users of 2,000 to 14,000 gallons of water, that goes from $6.95 per 1,000 gallons to $8.34. Users of 14,000 to 50,000 gallons of water goes from $6.55 per 1,000 to $7.86. Users of 50,000 to 200,000 goes from $5.65 per 1,000 to $6.78, and then users of more than 200,000 goes from $4.70 to $5.64 per 1,000. Minimum bill is goes from $16.60 to $19.92, and the flat rate users goes from $33.98 to $40.77. So that is the changes. Just the changes in the rates, and again, that is found in our codified ordinances of Article 1917 is the new sewer rates. A little bit to report. I spoke with a representative of Sudden Link today. Michael Zervelli, I believe is his name. And Mr. Doss was concerned about the status of the head-end lease. He tells me he's taking that to his people Tuesday, and we're supposed to get a confirmation of the head-end lease on Tuesday. I spoke to the same gentleman regarding the franchise agreement. As you may remember, we were working with one gentleman. I found out today that he is off on medical leave, so I couldn't get a hold of him, couldn't get my calls returned. Mr.
Kellerman?
Yes, he's off on medical leave, and they could not give me a time frame for when he would return. So this new gentleman out in Missouri is going to have a conference call with me on Thursday at 1 o'clock regarding the franchise agreement. So that's going to get off dead center. I did not realize Mr. Kellerman was ill and off, so we just weren't able to make contact, and now I understand why. So there is progress to be made. We'll have something on the head-end lease by Tuesday next week. And then on Thursday, I'm going to do a 1-hour to 2-hour conference call with the new gentleman, and hopefully we will have something back before council in relatively short order.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Council, any questions or comments for Mr. McClure?
Not yet.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. In your packets, folks, you have under correspondence, the West Virginia Alcohol Beverage Control Beer Garden almost having a barbecue bash request, same as last year. As for your information item, we'll have a beer garden again this year, Ron. I know you enjoyed that last year.
Yeah, that was great.
In your packets under consent agenda, folks, you'll see the approval of the minutes from the April 21st regular council meeting, approval of the building and wiring permits, approval of the payment of the bills, and E4, unfortunately, to accept the resignation of Mr. Michael Goss, city administrator. Is there anything you... I'll allow that to go.
Say that
now. Do you want to pull anything out of the consent agenda from E1 to E4? All right, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I got a motion by Mrs. Alba, second by Mr. Pugh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to strategic issues for discussion and vote, which we're all lovely waiting for. Resolution 2016-09, the building permit fee refund. Council, what is your pleasure?
I make a motion, we adopt it. I would second that motion.
What, I didn't hear it, sorry.
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas to accept Resolution 2016-09, the building permit fee refund, and I have a second by Mr. Pugh. Discussion.
I think it's the fair thing to do, the right thing to do.
All right, any other discussion?
No, that's why I seconded. I think it's the right thing to do.
Call for motion.
I got a call for the motion from Mr. Thomas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, what we'll need to do is, Amby, direct, I know we've been keeping track of those numbers, but now we'll have to go ahead and,
We need to wait for the new ordinance to go into effect, and then we'll do
the 30 days and then do that.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, next you have Resolution 2016-10, authorization to transfer the property to the Upshur County Development Authority, the corner spring in Maine, contingent upon receipt and award for power grants. What is your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Pugh.
Mayor, can I speak to one issue real quick? I know
I was just going into discussion.
I could read this if you want me to. I don't think that it's necessary unless council would
The
ask.
resolution?
Yes. If you don't think it's
So you
necessary.
don't want to hear it?
I'd like to know what one sentence means.
Read it.
Okay.
Okay.
Let him read it. Let him read it.
Okay.
Okay, resolution number 2016-10, a resolution of council. What time about that? Expressing and confirming its intention to transfer certain municipal property to the Upshur County Development Authority for economic development. Whereas the city of Buckhannon possesses a certain parcel of real property located at the intersection of Spring Street and Main Street within the corporate limits of the city of Buckhannon. And whereas the city of Buckhannon is not in immediate need to utilize said property for any governmental purpose. And whereas the city of Buckhannon, pursuant to West Virginia Code, Chapter 7, Article 12, Section 11, which I read to you previously, is authorized to transfer real property to the Upshur County Economic Development Authority upon such terms and conditions as the parties may agree. And whereas the city of Buckhannon is empowered to transfer and the Upshur County Development Authority is authorized to receive, pursuant to Chapter 1, Article 5, Section 3 of the West Virginia Code, any real property upon consideration of the city's lack of need for the property, the development authority's need for such property, and the benefits to be derived by the public as a result of such acquisition and disposition of said property. Whereas the Upshur County Development Authority was created by acts of the Upshur County Commission and the city of Buckhannon for the express purpose of fostering and creating economic development within the city and the county. Whereas the Upshur County Development Authority, pursuant to West Virginia Code, Chapter 7, Article 12, Section 7, is authorized to accept real property for the purposes of economic development within the corporate limits of the city of Buckhannon, Upshur County. And whereas the Upshur County Development Authority has commenced the application process for obtaining a power partnership opportunity workforce economic revitalization grant distributed through the Appalachian Regional Commission. And whereas the Development Authority believes that the application process will be highly competitive and feels strongly that its grant application will merit serious consideration by the Regional Commission. And whereas in order to receive these scarce grant dollars, the Development Authority must have a commitment from the City of Buckhannon that it will deed the aforementioned real property to the Development Authority for the express purpose of economic development. And whereas this council understands the importance of the Development Authority in creating job opportunities for current and future generations of Upshur County residents. And whereas this council believes that it is within the best interests of the citizens of Buckhannon to transfer the above described property to the Development Authority so that this proposed project may be realized. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the City of Buckhannon, Upshur County, West Virginia, as follows. The real property heretofore referenced will be transferred by agreement of the parties and upon such terms as to be agreed to between the Upshur County Development Authority and the City of Buckhannon. The property will be transferred in accordance with
Could you repeat that one sentence there, please?
The real property heretofore referenced will be transferred by agreement of the parties and upon such terms as to be agreed upon between the Upshur County Development Authority and the City of Buckhannon. The property will be transferred in accordance with applicable law, but such transfer will be contingent upon approval of the grant application. Further, it being the understanding of the City of Buckhannon and the Upshur County Development Authority, the property shall be returned to the City of Buckhannon if grant is not awarded. Lastly, such terms shall be contained in a written agreement between the parties, and further, the deed transferring the property shall contain a reversionary clause evidencing this requirement.
Question, Mr. McCoy. Well, Pam had a question, that's why we read it. Pam, you still got a question on that?
I want to know what the word reversionary clause means, what's that?
Yeah, it's just a property law term that means it will revert back. So it's a lot of times where property is granted to public entities, if it ceases to be used for a public purpose, then it reverts back to the previous owner. So it's called a reversionary interest. So if that thing if the project doesn't happen, then by the deed and by the agreement between us, then it will revert back to the City of Buckhannon.
Any other questions? Okay, Mary?
Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
in the very first one, where it says the real property located at the intersection of Spring Street and Main Street, normally a piece of property has some sort of code number.
Meets and bounds.
Okay, is it possible that we could just insert that in that?
Sure, sure.
I just think it would, because that identifies the property, not Main Street.
Yeah, I mean, you would normally say legal description,
Yeah.
more commonly known or routinely referred to as that. So I just
I
put
would
the
like to-
common name.
I would like to.
Would the property tax map references be sufficient on that?
Yes, yeah, because it's all the same anyhow.
It's in the appraisal too.
That'll be on the deed.
It would be.
That'd be on the deed?
It wouldn't hurt to have it here too.
All right, council, you have a motion and a second.
Well, let me say this.
Oh, go ahead.
I know we'll be here. I just wanted to say, this actually does not transfer the property. This is a resolution that shows the City of Buckhannon's commitment to the Development Authority that we are partnering on this agreement. We will ultimately have to do an ordinance, and we'll have to structure an agreement that will probably contain a lot of the same language in here, and I think it should be pretty easy to get to. But this is just a commitment of the council to be partners in this economic development. One more thing I'd like to say. The old saying is, one lawyer in a small town can starve to death, but two can make a pretty good living. I'm not knocking anybody's legal opinions and where they got them. I've been doing municipal law for 18 years. So normally sometimes people disagree with my opinion if I say, hey, based on my information, but I read the statute. I mean, it wasn't Scott's analysis. I read the statute verbatim that permits this. So it wasn't any creative lawyering, wasn't any fancy analysis. It's what the statute said. You are allowed to transfer your property to the Development Authority. So I hope nobody paid for those legal opinions. But you guys pay me for this purpose. I understand this purpose. I can read Chapter 7, and I will point everybody in the direction here, if they would like to see exactly what it says. But it grants you the authority to do it. And I want you all to be assured of that and understand that whatever the policy reasons are, whatever the debate is, you can have those, but rest assured that according to the law, you could do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We count on that, that's what we continue with.
And
Go ahead.
after hearing your description of da-da-da-da-da, the after part,
Yeah.
then I withdraw my question, even needing any more description on that.
Okay.
This is sufficient.
Yeah.
You were in discussion, absolutely.
Okay, Scott, let's just say we have a city town meeting, a town hall meeting, and, we all discussed it, and it decided that we want to back out of this. I
You
mean,
can do that.
you know, I'm saying, okay, we can do this. But what if the majority say, well, we don't think you should do that? Can we back out at any time?
Yeah, to me, this is a commitment, and I think this is what was requested of me, is a resolution saying we are committed, and I think Rob needs this if he proceeds further, so I think you have to do it earnestly, but until we've actually transferred the deed and entered into an agreement to accomplish that, we haven't transferred the property. And is that your understanding as well, Rob?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's where it's at. This
So the
should be,
answer is
no, this should be an earnest commitment, but you're right, if the discussions change and there's more questions, then you would have that right, but, I mean, until we have done an ordinance and until we have entered into an agreement for a property transfer, it still belongs to the city of Buckhannon. Mayor.
If we would vote to commit to this, okay, and the transfer of property deed, why can that not be wait until they see if they get the grant or not?
It is. It is, what we're doing.
The only thing
Wait a minute.
Anybody in this room could probably answer better than me. My understanding was they had to have the property in order to get the grant.
I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, but maybe ask Rob, he knows it better.
What was the question? I didn't hear you.
Well, does the grant actually have, I mean, the deed have to actually be signed before you get the grant?
We can have a non-binding letter of award based on the resolution that is presented right now. The grant funds, when we go through award, that's like being approved for a home loan or a loan. Then when we go through closing, which is after we get the letter of award, then we have to verify the documents, such as go through the process of transferring the property, and then until we can close on the grant, after we're awarded the grant, we would have to have that property in the Development Authority's name.
So there's a time period that we still own the property and you have the grant, that's what you're saying?
We have a non-binding, we have a non-binding commitment of award. We can't get that without the commitment of the city in a resolution.
Yes, but we can commit to you, but what I'm saying is, there will be a time space there that you may receive that grant, say, no, you're getting that grant, and we haven't signed the deed yet, that's what I'm saying.
Right, they can say we've got the grant, but we won't be able to get any funding. We won't be able to close on the funding, so we won't ever get any money or drawdowns until we have a deed of that property.
We can back out.
Right.
Now we might vote to do that, right? Is that right?
Be the same as
So yes,
home.
we can, right?
You don't actually own the property until you actually go to closing. So you may have lots of papers signed, but until closing happens, the deed hasn't transferred.
All we're really saying here is that we're committing to the project and that as part of their grant application, the city is now committing itself to fulfilling this project. If the development of the EDA or if the power grant is actually given to them, that's when actually the paperwork starts. They just, the national government just wants to make sure that the city's on board with this, and we're just not playing around. They end up awarding them the money, and then we're not going to be, would be a surprise to them. Oh, well, the city never said it was going to do anything with it. So that's kind of the whole point of this resolution.
But the negotiation of the grant itself, once we're awarded, could be so onerous, at some point in time, we would decide to back out. That's the key, I think, that we have that capability.
That's really a good point, and I want to make sure that, and Scott as well, that let's just say we don't agree with it, and even though they've been awarded, they're on it, we can still pull out. I mean, that would be a great shame to do to them, and it wouldn't look very well, but we always have that clause,
Well, I
right?
mean,
That option?
well, we got to sit down and negotiate an agreement with them about just those terms. So, so until the deed is transferred, until the agreement's entered, of course, that's always the case. Now, I think what I'm hearing, if we get a little further down the road and we still have cold feet, then perhaps some type of language might be spelled out in the grant, but, or excuse me, in the agreement. But I'll do as I'm instructed, so if that's what it takes to get a viable and enforceable agreement, then that's what we'll put in there. Maybe Rob could speak to that issue. It's just my thoughts on it. That would be one of the elements of the transfer of the property, one of the terms that we would agree to prior to transfer.
I can say that if there's something on there that the council, the majority or however it goes down, feels uncomfortable with, I'm sorry, I don't know the lingo.
You're fine.
Uncomfortable with, the development authority probably is going to have that same concern, and we're not going to be on uncommon ground. So, I mean, just to reiterate again, if we get to a point where it doesn't make sense, we don't do it. But we got to go after it.
But, okay, even if we do pass this tonight, we still have to have a town hall meeting, right?
Okay,
And have-
sure.
And still have
We can.
2 readings.
I would suggest we do that. Yes,
Well-
absolutely. I would suggest we do that.
It's not a transfer, no, it's a resolution.
No, it's just resolution, but we would still want to have, because unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that aren't aware of, and I'm sure the coverage tonight will help focus in on this, all the questions and comments. But this is just saying that the city at this point agrees with you. We think it's a great idea. Go ahead and go for the grant. At some point, we'll take it out. I would not be opposed to a town hall meeting. I would ask that somebody else do a town hall meeting. I've done enough of them. But yes, we could absolutely do it
Well, it's gonna be affecting
for
everybody
plus and
downtown.
negative. Sure it is.
You know.
Absolutely. I agree.
I agree, I think we should have a town hall meeting and hear what the majority of the people think. This is their property. And I would like to commit to having that town hall meeting right away.
Okay, we can do that. We can ask for that here in a moment after we deal with this situation, if we still want to do that. So I have a call for the question from Mr. Pugh. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
You have to have a roll call.
That's a resolution. See? I got that one right. Resolution, roll call vote.
Let's start with Mary Aldahl. In favor of or opposed to? Yes. Robin Simons. In favor of or opposed to?
I'll say yes.
Ron Pugh. In favor of or opposed to?
I'm going to preface this with one statement. That's the fact that I've been in government in one way or another since 1972. I made a statement then that when I got too old to be progressive or anything like that, then I would get out of government. I am not too old. I'm 70 years old. I want to be progressive. I want this city to progress, and I vote yes.
Pam Capari. In favor of or opposed to?
Well, after reading this, okay, I've had a lot of pulling back and forth I've heard lots of people talk, got phone calls, everything. And I do want the future to be the way with the technology, I don't know that stuff, but I do know we need a future for our kids that live in here and anybody want jobs. But the only reason why I'm going to vote yes on this tonight is because if they do not get that grant, that property definitely comes back to the city. That's the only reason why I will vote yes tonight.
Good deal. Thank you, Ben.
Exactly.
Dave Thomas. Opposed, approved or opposed?
I approve. I'll make some comments at the end of the meeting.
Mayor.
I don't have to, but I'm going to approve it, so it's unanimous for the grant folks to see that the city's 100% behind the
We
development.
need to sign something for this.
All right, having said that. Thank you very much for coming out tonight and making both sides heard. We haven't gone anywhere all the way with this yet, so.
And come to the town hall meeting too. That's
That's the next thing. Okay, give me a date for a town hall meeting. Where do you want to have it?
Can we make some comments?
We will in a moment.
I think it should be City Hall because it's city business.
You want it at City Hall? It's a
Yes.
small room.
The chairs are more comfortable.
And I don't like being able to just not be able to see people's faces out there.
Really?
Yeah. I like to see the reaction.
All right, so Pam wants to have it at City Hall. You guys come up with a date. We gotta have at least,
Next Thursday.
2 hours for, this isn't an official council meeting, it's just a town hall, so there's no announcement requirement. Of course, we want to let them know. All right, come up with a date, y'all. You want to do that now or you want to wait?
Let's do it late, we'll wait.
I'd like to do it now.
Okay, come up with a date.
Next
Can we
Thursday.
do it next Thursday?
What's the date?
12.
I don't know if that's enough. Is that enough? How much notice we have to give the paper we're having?
That's
a
time.
Town hall meeting?
That's
That's
time.
time enough?
Well, in a town hall meeting, it's not an official council meeting. We don't have to
There'd be no
necessarily
decisions
do
made there or anything like that.
an
It's just a
announcement.
meeting.
But for the citizens.
May
to
12th.
know.
May 12th.
May 12th. May 12th's been called out. That's a Thursday.
That's fine.
At what time?
6:30.
Thursday, May 12th at 6:30 at City Hall. There you go. That'll be the town hall for everyone that's interested, either for or opposed.
Mayor, interject. Jay has a comment.
I can try, but I have those 35 property owners coming to council chambers at 6 o'clock for that.
7:30?
I mean, you'll. 7.
Can you have it here? Can't have it here?
Why can't you have it here?
Why can't we have it here?
It's a bigger room.
Well, I don't know what's on their schedule. Brian, do you have anything scheduled for next Thursday, the 12th?
There's training, there's training next week.
That can't be in here. We got to train.
There's training.
We'll have it at City Hall at 7:30. You're going to have to make it work.
Would that work? Would that work?
Oh, yeah, I only need an hour.
Okay, make it 7.
7 o'clock, the same as before. All right, I do have one other comment that was going to need to be made before the fire department leaves. Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let you know, late in the afternoon of February 29th, we had a house fire, and this professional fire department really outdid themselves. They came within 3 minutes, and I think it was 2.5 actually. And I want to give them a big hand and my kudos. Thank you. They saved the house.
Thank you very much, Dennis. All right, so I'm starting on my far left. Mr. Thomas, comments?
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening, both those in favor and those that were not in favor. I think the city is at an inflection point for a lot of things that are very positive for us in the future. I had the privilege of meeting with the consultant that's going to sort of orchestrate the hiring of the next president of Westland, and there was an opportunity for community individuals to be there. Kathy McMurray was part of that, and C.J. Rollins and Bryson Van Ostrom, Sam Nolte, and others. And it's just really nice to hear the positive scenarios that may be happening for the future from both the college and the downtown Chamber of Commerce and St. Joe's. I think Bob Skinner said it very appropriately about, we're anchored on either side to downtown, and here's an opportunity for something. But there were some legitimate questions brought up tonight. I want to make it real clear, I did not know about this project any time before it was appropriate. The executive board of the Development Authority had a little heads up before the full board knew about it. And we basically said, we got to get to the city and talk about this and so forth. And the capitalization, the short-term capitalization of what transpired, really, as Rob said last meeting, it was a whirlwind. So I believe in transparency. I really think that's very important. And unfortunately, there was one of the architect firms that was asked to submit a bid. There were 19 firms that submitted, 6 chosen to make the final presentation to a committee that was going to make a recommendation to the full board. One of those architect firms was at the Chamber of Commerce dinner and said that they were here because they were looking at the possibility of building a 3-story building. That was totally inappropriate. That architect firm should never have said something like that. And we always have leaks. We worry about leaking ourselves, you know, an executive council or a board council meeting, but there was never the intent to keep this secret from anybody. And I'm very glad we had a full venting tonight, and I look forward to the next town hall meeting. And again, I appreciate everybody being here. I got some questions that I want to answer that were asked tonight at the town hall meeting, so I plan on being there. I wish I weren't here tonight because my daughter's getting married Saturday, and that's where I ought to be right now. But I thought this was an important meeting. I should not miss it. So
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Pam?
Yes, I want to wish Michael Doss luck in the future in his new venture, and we're really going to miss him, and we feel he's done a very good job, and we're all going to hate losing him.
That's good. Well,
This is his last meeting, by the way.
he can come to town hall next week.
It wasn't that way, but he is now.
Also, are we having our meeting on the night of the kids' parade for Strawberry Festival?
No.
Well, that'd be the...
Probably not.
I think they've been rescheduled.
It's the next week.
Yeah, I think we
We just, oh, where was I? Okay. And like I said, I want to say one more time, all this tonight been a big load on my shoulders, worrying about what to do. So I hope I prayed about it, and I hope I've done made the right decision. So I just want to let everyone know that. And also, I would like to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day this Sunday, and enjoy your family. And one more thing, I can't wait till next Wednesday. It's going to be over with. So, all right. Get out and say
Why is that, Pam?
I want to get out and say.
Mr. Pugh?
Yeah, I'd also like to wish my mother, who's 97 years old, a happy Mother's Day. And she is in the third floor St. Joe's in the continuous care unit with dementia, but she still knows me and my sister. And I got to tell you that I confessed to her everything that I ever did when I was a kid. I felt better, and she didn't remember it. And so I really feel better over that. Tonight has been very, very, I don't want to say entertaining, but it has been an emotional night. I tell everybody that there are decisions I have to make that are very difficult. There are decisions that are unpopular. And I wasn't elected to make just strictly popular decisions or anything. There are times when, because we have open meetings, that I have to mention maybe my neighbors, which I don't want to, but we have an open meeting, and if we're talking about one of them or something that they're doing that's not right, I have to bring their names into the discussion, or we can't have a discussion. And because of this open meeting thing, I think that's the way that our government works, and it's the right way. We don't send somebody out to the chopping block just because of rumors or anything like that. So I appreciate everybody that's been coming out to our meetings. I hope you continue to come to the meetings. We disagree, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some similar interests and everything like that. And I'd just like to say that the one more thing is that God bless us, everyone.
Thank you, Ron. Robin?
Well, I've had an emotional meeting as well. I take my position very seriously. I try to represent each and every person in the city and in the county because they do business in the city. And decisions can be hard. We're all in it together. We all live in the same community. I have 4 daughters and 5 grandkids. And my kids have left Buckhannon to get jobs.
Yeah,
Certainly I want jobs. I want my grandkids here, and so forth. But we also have to be real careful about what we do and not rush into something we might be sorry for. And that was my main concern tonight, that we were rushing. I'm not comfortable with rushing. I like to get opinions. I like to make sure that what we're doing is exactly right. Sometimes you can't do it. So I'm praying that I've made the right decision tonight by voting yes. I want to wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day, and all the single dads out there, or all the dads that take care of the children as well. Times have changed. Dad take care of kids just as much as moms do.
Isn't there a day for that too?
And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the town hall meeting. I hope everyone that has an opinion comes. Everyone counts. We want to hear it all. I applaud the Upshur County Development Authority for trying to move forward and to bring jobs. I applaud the county, the council for trying to make the right decision. And I'm going to miss Michael Doss awful bad. He has the cutest little kids I've ever seen in my life.
She's not gonna miss Michael.
Doesn't miss me, she missed my kid.
Yeah, his little girl's adorable, and I'm really gonna miss. I'm like, I'll never see you or hear from you again, and I would never know what that little girl grew up to be or what she's like. And I'll always wonder, but best of luck, Michael.
She's not that far from your sister.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Mary?
Michael, you know I've always appreciated you and respected you for who you are and what you've done for this city, and I greatly appreciate it. You've done a wonderful, wonderful job. Where are you? Robbie? I want to thank you for standing up there and getting grilled tonight. You did a great job. You did it better than I would have had, okay? And Mr. Skinner, are you there too? Thank you for being here tonight representing Wesleyan and also representing the Upshur County Development Authority and the rest of the members that are here tonight for that too. I like to see the county commission people here. I like to see us all represented in one big room, talking and working for the betterment of this. I know we could, no, it's too good of a building to do that. It's really great. And all of you who are running for election this year, I wish you the best, the best.
Rub it in there. Rub it in there. You don't have to rub it.
And thank you, sign makers.
Thank you, Mary. I just want to echo the same thing the council said. Thank you all for being here tonight. Obviously, the community is even more engaged than it has been in many years.
Yes.
And we had what, 4 town halls already, and with a lot of participation. I encourage and hope to anticipate seeing that continue. Doss, I'm going to miss you as well, but I'll miss your wife in this case. She's got a great smile.
We need to talk after the meeting. Sleep the family after the
And I wanted to wish my wife and the mother of my 3 wonderful daughters a happy Mother's Day as well, and putting up with me. I also want to thank the citizens for allowing me to have the last 18 months to fulfill a seat that I believe by charter should be done that way. Even though, you know, there's always going to be enemies and there's always going to be supporters. It doesn't really matter as long as you're making the right decisions and you hear both sides of it. That's the way politics should be, and it should be for the citizens of Buckhannon and for the citizens that they represent. Council, I do have a question for you. Do we have to have this executive session, or are you ready to make a decision on one of those two.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
The property one's already been resolved, I believe.
Yeah.
So then, to save us from having to go into executive session, then I'd entertain a motion, or would somebody like to table or put forward a motion?
I'll make a motion that we hire fire chief.
Second.
James,
Jim.
whatever.
James Townsend.
Can't remember his name.
Second.
James Townsend.
What's the name?
James
Townsend.
Townsend.
And we can get you the information on that.
T-O-W-N-S-E-N-D.
I have a motion, and just so everyone hears, I have a motion on the table by Mrs. Capari to approve upon contingent on a background check and the paperwork, that we hire James Townsend as the new fire chief to begin immediately upon his schedule. Do I have a second? You seconded it?
I seconded it.
Mrs. Simon seconded it.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen, you got a new chief. We are adjourned, folks.
Rich Clemens, you did a magnificent job tonight.
Oh, yes, Rich, I forgot, did I?
You did.